That's how the illusion works, is on preconceived notions. So if you can just deal with it raw and authentic in the moment as it is, not really knowing what it is and being happy to admit that you don't know, but you're just going to roll with it, then it could turn into anything. And that's much more expansive.
It's magic.
That's real magic.
Still and silent, calm before the storm, gold and diamond, jewels behind the throne, into the night, out of the dark, take to the sky, chasing the stars, all that we said, all that we are, waiting to fly, this is the start. Hide and seek, reason and rhyme, grand and glorious, living the dream, yours and mine, euphoria.
Hi guys, welcome back to True Sacred Union. I am Debbie Dubois and I am here with my very good friend Hamish Bartholomeaus. Hamish, how you
Debbie.
doing?
Doing quite well, thank you. Doing quite well. How about
Well,
you?
I'm doing great, and it's so funny because we had started this recording, you guys, and we just had some kind of a really funky blip I've never seen before. So I said, someone's participating in this call, so we shall see what kind of effects we can have in the reverse. Like, what can we do? It was really interesting, you guys. Even the we switched places on the Zoom call. It was like, what just
It was
happened?
big.
So maybe
It
Holmes
was
with us.
big.
It was big.
Yeah, it
It
was a big
was.
blip.
Yeah, so this is going to be kind of interesting to see what happens.
Mm.
The topic, I guess, that we wanted to get together because I think it was either a day or two ago, Hamish and I were talking. See, we're opposite ends of the world, so we never know like what day it was for the two of us. But Hamish asked me, hey, have you seen any significant changes like in the last couple days? Is there anything that's been going on? And I said, yeah, what have you been experiencing? So you tell the story about what you were seeing, and then I can kind of respond.
Yeah, so I woke up knowing that we were in a different space. Whatever had went on, the world I went to bed in was not the world I woke up in. And I woke up at like 3 a.m, and which is
Yeah.
happens, but not usual. Like not, I've gone through periods where that happens every morning. I'm up at 3, but not for quite a while. And I was up at 3 and the day was on. It was all happening. And in the space of early in the morning, I had maybe 5 or 6 people reach out saying, what's going on with today? And all of them expressed it in different ways, but they all used the word freedom. And some of them were having an amazing experience around this freedom that they hadn't had before. And some of them were not enjoying it so much. It was uncomfortable. There wasn't an issue, but they just couldn't get comfortable with the energy somehow. It was just a bit cat on a hot tin roof. So
Was apparent
so
though.
that
It was a
was
significant, like they all
very
felt the
apparent.
significance. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I didn't really have words to describe it, but I'd felt the same thing. That when I woke up, I just felt like there was a whole new energy had dropped in, and almost like something had opened up. We had access to something that we didn't have access to before, and a whole lot of limitations had been dropped off the back end, is what it felt like to me.
Which led you to that word freedom.
Yeah.
Feeling
Yep.
freed up, feeling
Yeah.
like
Definitely.
something had been lifted significantly. And what I'm trying to think of what day this was, because I could almost guarantee you that it coincided with a certain experience that I had that I remember, but I'm trying to figure out if we're recording this Wednesday night, this must have been
like your
Hamish,
Monday night, my Tuesday morning, I
right?
think.
And we were trying to figure out when it started. Remember? We were like,
Yeah,
when did it start?
yeah.
Um,
Mm.
did you get a
It's
consensus on
kind of,
that from people that you were
yeah,
talking to?
it was somewhere around that, like, USA Sunday night, Monday morning, somewhere in there, it shifted significantly
Right.
for a lot of people. So, yeah.
Well, I know that I've been in what I would consider a flow state, like just
Mm.
in the zone, in the flow. And it started for me probably last week, Thursday. Um, there has been a trend that I have seen, and I want to ask you if you've seen this as well.
Mhm.
Talking with clients and friends and family, there seems to be, and this happened to me personally, and that's how I confirmed it with other people. Is I personally came across, I would consider one of my anchor core wounds that
Mm.
surfaced for it took me totally by surprise again. It's so funny because Kimberly, my business partner, her and I are the ones that always trigger each other into these big expansion growth. So we were having this conversation and these old topics came up and we're like, where is this coming from? We haven't talked about stuff like this for a whole year. And what's really interesting, and Hamish, I haven't talked to you about this, but what I realized is that for me, this final flipping of the switch for me that felt like a resolution of core wounds that went way back, and now I'm even thinking how far back this goes. But in this
Mm.
lifetime, what started to surface was my career. Of all things,
Mm.
with all the things with the sacred counterpart twin flame path and all of the stuff that I've done, taking on the banks and standing up into the court systems as my own attorney, all the things that I had done on mission. And all of a
Mm.
sudden, the stuff that was coming up for me was career related and this feeling of I didn't even know what it was. And it was slippery. And Kimberly and I were trying to work it out. And I'm going, it's right there. I can't quite get a handle on it. It was sliding around and slipping, right? And I've heard other people
Yep.
describe this exact thing when they're looking for this thing. So I finally, it's like I grabbed a hold of it and I said, you're not going anywhere. And I looked it in the face. And I realized I was dealing with the trauma of past experiences in my career where I was abused.
Mm.
And
Yep.
this abusive energy, the abuse of power, the silencing, the shaming, the lack of compensation, the fact that people would rattle stuff off at me and then they were like, you can't keep up, what's wrong with you? You know what I mean? Just this continual, and isn't it so funny? That doesn't seem like a really big issue. When I think of the stuff I've
Mm.
been through, it didn't seem like a really big
Yeah.
issue, but you know what just came to me just today?
Mm.
I've got a job to do here.
Yeah.
And I've had this doubt, right? This was that last seed of doubt. You can't do this job. You're not qualified for this job. You can't do
Yep.
this. In other words, all of the stuff that, was always the biggest fears.
Yeah.
Just
Training. And
came,
it's like,
yep,
yeah. Yeah. It's like the trauma that you experienced in the workplace was nothing to do with the actual trauma. It was to do with planting the seed that you weren't actually capable of doing what you were here to do.
that's it. And I did not
Yeah.
see that until this very day.
Mm.
And there's reasons, and we're going to get into that. There's
Yep.
reasons why I realized how tied in that is. But let's get back to the flow state. So,
Mm.
so what happened is, oh my gosh, Kimberly and I celebrated. She was like, "Oh my gosh, you did it! You found the core of this," and I was like, "Oh, I'm so happy!" And we knew that just as friends, we've helped elevate each other because we are so similar in a lot of ways, but different in others, and we just get that core wound. Many times
Yep.
we've had these expansions for each of us. So we were celebrating, and I was like, so what ended up happening was that very next day, I was inspired to take our website and redo the whole thing. Now, I'm a
Mm.
web designer. I haven't been doing web design. I've been working in the Intuit Oracle business, in marketing, sales, in customer service, but I haven't been doing web design really. I sat down and in 3 days, I just was in the flow. Boom, 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 changed everything up. Beautiful pictures, beautiful. Guys, I'm gonna put the link below. I'm so proud of this creative expression, I cannot tell you. So I went into this flow state from there. It was like something flipped a switch and I was free. I was
Yeah.
free. And that's the word. When you were saying, what's going on with you, it was the freed up flow state. Kimberly is working on a project. She has, a home building project. She just
Mm.
started cranking it out. Her kitchen's done. She poured her counters. She had been trying to get this project done for 2 years now. And all of a
Yeah.
sudden, it's coming together. It's coming together. And she's like, oh, I feel like I'm freed up. So then it was like, I just kept checking in with people. Now tell me, like, the flow state or the freedom state, do you have any, like, particular examples you can, without giving too much information away, obviously.
Yeah. So for me, it's just like when you're not thinking and there's no mind involved. It doesn't matter what you're doing. If
Right.
you're doing it, it's almost like a mindless task or a mindless chore. But mostly when people do mindless chores, they're actually all up in their mind, grinding about something or other that you don't usually switch off. But it's like being in this spot where you're totally receptive and totally switched on. You're actually hyper switched on, but you're not thinking at all. And in fact, if you do think, it probably kicks you out.
Yes.
So you need to not think. But it's and a lot of people can't get there without vigorous physical activity. Let's put it that way. So a lot of athletes talk about being in the flow state. Probably a lot of sexual experiences end up being in the flow state because of the physicality of your body gets so busy doing what it's doing, the body kind of switches off in a way, like it's just in its zone doing its thing. And somehow the mind gets bypassed as well. You just click past the mind and you can see what else is going on. And it doesn't have to be the like surfing or motorbike riding or whatever it is. Running, I mean, I've experienced it running, I've experienced it motorbike riding, like I've had it in those spaces. You can get yourself there, you can bootstrap your way in, but it is something that you can just hit at any time as long as you can switch your head off. It's like not engaging with the mind and just doing the task without thinking about doing the task.
Yes.
And your productivity goes up like what, like 5 times, 7 times, 10 times? It's huge.
Because a lot of the times, like I relate to that in doing the website that I was doing. There was one point where I realized, oh, I have to think about this for a second. This was my thinking, right? I had to think about this because I don't know how to do this. And it was kind of like, let go and
Yeah.
just flow. And I found
Mm.
myself finding out what I needed without really thinking, without having to figure it out, without having to
Yeah.
work it all out. It was just like, oh, wow, boom, 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 boom. I get it.
Yeah.
It
Yep.
comes to you. It comes to
Yep.
you, not you having to chase
Exactly.
it down.
Exactly. You're not actually doing anything. You don't have to go and get it. And I mean, this is why the Zen people and the Taoist people are so big on, chop wood, carry water, or
Hmm.
doing the washing up, or doing the gardening, because they're tasks that are so repetitive and so easy physically that you don't have to think about the task. You can just do it.
Right.
And then if you can get so bored that you stop thinking about thinking, suddenly you're in the zone and away you go. So it's not like the only way you can get it is in bed with someone or
Right.
long distance running or riding a motorbike really quickly or like whatever it is that you're engaged physically and trying to get to the point where it's so hectic you actually can't think anymore. You're mentally exhausted and you have to switch off.
Right.
It,
Oh,
it's like, yeah,
I
you're
didn't
not,
have
it's
to.
not, you
Right.
don't need that. That's one way of getting there, but it's not the only way by any means of getting there.
Well, and when you're in that flow and it's not that physical driving force, it's kind of like you don't get tired. You don't,
No, no,
I
no.
don't
You
hit a
don't need to
wall.
eat.
You don't hit a wall.
No,
You're just
there's
like,
no wall.
you just are like, okay, I've done enough of that. Something else pulls your attention, but it's not like, oh my God, I gotta get through this. And I have experienced that so much working in digital marketing and in all kinds of tech. Usually I find it extremely draining. This was an experience of energy. It was like energizing. I kept comparing it to when I was a kid and I was like setting up shop to play store. I'm playing. I am totally playing. So in the flow, it felt more like playing. Um,
Mm.
so when we're talking about going into the flow, I had several people report that they hit their deep wounds. Um,
Mm.
that might have been part of it. It's almost
Yeah,
like, yeah, go ahead.
uh, because the thing that keeps us out of because this flow state, which is just a word for it, and I'm sure other cultures have different words.
Mm-hmm.
This flow state it's just a state of no mind. It's a state of activity, kind of, it doesn't have to be activity, but
Right.
usually is, where you're not thinking about it. You're just with it. You're just working with it, and it just runs. And so why is that so much more productive than doing it the other way? It's because you've switched your mind off. So obviously your brain, mind, your thoughts are hindering the process. They're actually blocking you. And
Right.
so if you can turn that into anything you're doing, it's like, well, who am I really, and what is my mission here? And how do I even have a mission here? Isn't this like a slave colony and I've just been tricked into being here, and anything that I do in here is working for the slave masters? And you go, yeah, maybe. But one thing I do know is the absolute hijacked unit in your whole system is your nervous system, culminating in the brain mind.
Right.
Like, that is just a transceiver, and it just has a frequency, and so it will send and receive, and it's like it's an open network. That the network of your nervous system and your brain is an open network.
Right.
So it's not that it can be hijacked, it's just open. It's public access. Anyone who knows how to get in can get in. So whose thoughts are they? Who are you working for if you're up there? You have no clue. You really don't
Well,
know.
that, and I think that we have so many programs, like I was saying, I had somewhere been programmed. It was a little program inserted that basically said, you suck at work.
Yeah.
It's just that simple. It's like,
Yeah,
you can't be
exactly.
successful at it. You're not going to make it,
Mm.
whatever it is, or you're not worthy of the position you hold, whatever it is. It can be 1,000 programs. And
Yeah.
that program, whether that was someone coming in from the outside and inserting that, thought into you, or if it's family or lineage, or, it could be a
Mm.
myriad of places where that comes from. Um,
Definitely.
but all right, so getting into the flow really requires healing, some of these deep wounds, but I really feel like something pushed that recently.
Something shifted,
Yeah.
which is like I don't know how many videos have I done and other people have done, saying, not in the last few months, but in the last few years, saying, the crazy train is coming. The pressure's going to get turned up. Things are going to get wild. Traumas are going to get triggered. We're getting into a bottleneck, for whatever reason, whatever's coming. We're going to hit a bottleneck and all this stuff's going to come up. Now, if you don't want to look at it, or you haven't looked at it, or you didn't even know it existed to look at because you didn't know it was there, so no harm, no foul, either way with that.
Right. No shame, no blame. Yeah.
Yeah,
You just
exactly.
didn't know.
Like,
Yeah.
when it comes up, you can either treat it as a terrible imposition because you had other stuff to do, or you could say, look at this opportunity that I've got to now deal with this thing that I didn't even know existed.
Right.
Because it's the thing that's keeping you out of the flow state.
Right.
These core wounds trigger our nervous system, trigger our brain, run these thoughts, these self-defeating thoughts that we have, and it just does all of that stuff. And if you can go in and find, or get someone to guide you in to find these traumas, these triggers, these core ones, and deal with them, and you probably don't need someone to help you look now, because I bet they're coming up. or they will. Like, that's what's going on at the moment. The volcano is erupting,
Right.
basically.
Right.
If you choose to treat it as an opportunity and deal with it and drop the baggage, well, then it's like finding the things that keep you out of the flow. And the
Right.
things that keep you out of the flow are your thoughts that are not actually yours. What's generating these thoughts that come in at the most inopportune times? Well, the strongest ones are generated by wounds and traumas.
Hmm.
So it's like looking for those pieces and being able to work with them, using them coming up, using someone triggering you as an opportunity to work with them. Because once you can hit that flow state more often, it's something else. It
Right.
really is the place to be.
Right.
Yeah.
Um, well, okay, so one of the other things that I kind of identified is that I've been looking around at social media just a very little bit. And the messages that I'm getting is that the forerunners are kind of pulling back.
Yeah.
And I almost feel like there's several reasons for that. The biggest reason is that whatever this shift we've just gone through has sort of pulled us back into, we need to be in our own energy right now. We need to be
Yep.
integrating all of this energy in this flow state. And there's just too much damn noise out there. There's too much noise. Do you see
Yeah.
that? Do you see
Yeah.
like
And
just
I've,
getting
I
on there and going,
Yeah, and I've felt it personally as well. I've certainly been much more active, and I haven't been deliberately or mindfully pulling back out of groups or out of contact or leaving it a day before I answer someone, or that's just where I'm at. Like, when something comes in, I'll deal with it, or if I go to look, but I'm not jumping into extra stuff at the moment. I'm not overextending in that way because I feel like my plate's pretty full at the moment, and that's not like I was busier 2 months ago than I am now, and I was certainly overextending much more than
right?
I am now. So it's definitely an energetic thing where I've received the memo: be a bit more insular, pull back a bit, don't be so exposed, and let this stuff integrate.
Yeah. Well, and for me, it's like, anyone that's sending me videos and things like that, it's like I can almost say yes, no. Yes, okay, let me
Mm.
look at something on this, and no, this is something I just don't need to be spending time with. And it does come when you're, when you're in the flow and it's coming to you. And I think that is really important. It's like, I know that before I was going out there to be of assistance. I was trying to see, hey, who needs help out here? You know what I mean? It was more like I was looking for anyone that needs help. Anyone, it's like when you got a moment at work and you're not busy and you see everyone else is busy and you're like, hey, does anyone need a hand? I was doing more of that. And
Mm.
now it's kind of like, it's almost like triaging. The stuff comes to me. And I'm like in the flow, I know, oh no, that has to wait. Okay, this is top priority. That's the flow. You don't even think about it. You just do what you gotta do. And
Yep.
but like when I go, I do check my Telegram chat thread every day. I try to check it at the end of the day, and sometimes I will drop a message if there's something that I feel like I can contribute. But as far as like, there's a lot of videos being posted in different chat threads and friends sending me Instagram, little bitty Instagram. Those are short videos. I'm like, when it comes to me, I'm like, who is this and what are they saying and where are they getting this information? And it's like, wait a minute, no, I don't want their information. I want my information. You see what I'm saying? So I don't know if I think people are feeling it. There have been, what I've noticed is there are people that I know that really just like to listen to something all the time. They want to listen to something while they're doing other things. It's productivity and it keeps them busy and on there. And I can't do that. I can't do that at all. It's like, that doesn't work for me anymore. Like, I guess what I'm trying to say is that I feel like I'm feeling myself pulled back, pulling my energy in. And there's information coming in. there's new stuff coming in. There's new things
That's
to
the one.
integrate, right?
That's the one. That's where because I did a lot of that. I did a lot of three things at once with audio. I'd be listening to data or books or podcasts or information. I would be absorbing information while I was doing another job because the work that I was doing was very hands-on, but not very interactive. And so I couldn't read, but I could orally, and I much prefer that anyway. Like, which sounds funny for someone who's read as much and like could be described as a bookworm by the
You're
family that used to know
encyclopedia.
me.
You're an
Yeah. But
encyclopedia. Yeah.
but I have listened a lot more and absorbed a lot more in that way. And I've noticed in the last, I would say 4 months, but definitely in the last 4 weeks, absolutely, I can't be doing two things at once. Like I can't be doing what I would normally be doing and listening in one ear, absorbing this information because, and I think you hit on it, there's so much data coming in now, and I don't know if it was always coming in at this level or whether we've just tuned ourselves into it. There's probably a bit of both there,
Maybe.
but we're certainly so much more tuned into this data stream, and I couldn't tell you what's coming in the data stream. It's kind of all feelings, and there's nothing I can pull out and say, I got this bit of information that I can share with you. It's a bit more expansive than that.
Yes.
But if someone was trying to talk to me or I was trying to do a task and listen to something at the same time,
I can't.
I would have to turn that off or ask them to be quiet because it's like four things coming in at once, and I just can't do that anymore. So and I used to be able to quite easily.
And I'd like to just say that what I think is possible here is that we're getting information on a different level now. So we're getting information with our audio, our eyes, all the stuff but we're also getting an infiltration of just the energy.
Yep.
And it's like, I don't know if it's memories coming back or if it's new thought systems, higher perspectives, or go ahead.
I was going to say it could have something to do with our idea, our cosmology, our thought of the construct, the way it is, and this idea that the layers or the dimensions or the levels of the construct are collapsing into each other, like in the proper meditations and the proper ways of doing it. Your energy centers, I'm not going to say the word because it's been so hijacked.
Right.
Your energy centers, the non-hijacked ones, are meant to collapse back into the spine, and it's all meant to be one. It's meant to be a column. It's not meant to be individual. That's not where you're meant to sit. That's like a starting point that's very hijacked, and you're meant to kind of drop that back.
Right.
So if these dimensions, levels, realms, whatever we're going to call it, are collapsing back in, then
that's data.
We're possibly getting a lot more. It's got to come somewhere, right? And we know, like the skyscrapers dropping into the basement. That's what's going on, and we are the basement. We know where we're existing right now is the basement. So it's coming in. Here it comes, and it does feel like it's not coming in through the eyes or the ears or the nose or the skin. It's coming in an extrasensory channel, and it's loud and it's constant.
It's very pervasive. It's.
I feel like
Go ahead.
I feel like an old person who has to turn the radio down in the car so they can concentrate properly. Like I can't. Someone would be talking to me and it's so loud what's going on. I can't concentrate on what they're saying.
Yeah.
I've got to stop and say, hold on a minute. Okay. Like compose myself, and there's all right, ask me again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I also feel like I'm getting my marching orders.
Yeah.
I feel like, and it's interesting because it's coming in a light coded form. So it's not like there's not really anyone that can just come on in and read these light codes. You know what I'm saying? It's like
they're personalized. They're encrypted.
Yeah.
They're encrypted and personalized.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Which is very, very reassuring.
Yeah. And it reiterates the message that was delivered to me very strongly. What was that, a month ago? A bit more of like, just shut the F up and do your damn work.
Do your damn work. homework, do your job. Yes, it was one of my
Do
favorite
your
things you
job.
ever said.
Yeah. Stop
Because
yapping and get on with it.
well, and because really what's coming in now for me very strongly is mission. It's our own instructions we're getting from our higher self. And our higher self is coming in to each individual person and giving you your assignments moment by moment by moment in the flow. And it's almost like that was part of a strategy. It's like
Yeah.
there's no pre-planned in our consciousness. Now, I would
No.
bet that my inner being and higher self, oh, she's got the plans, right? She knows. She knows what she's
But
gonna tell me at the last second. Turn right, turn
yeah,
left,
yeah, yeah.
jump
But
under this.
in here,
Yeah,
like in time,
yeah.
when I don't even have language to conceptualize outside of time. Like we know that even time works differently in the different layers in here in the different dimensions, but outside of the construct, I mean, yeah, call me later and I might have a way to explain that. Not at the moment. But in here, we know that once you're in time, the only moment that exists is the moment you're in.
Yeah,
Like the past isn't there. You can go back to the past, but when you go back to the past, you're in the now moment in
in the
your supposed
past.
past
Right.
or
Or the
future or
future.
whatever.
Yeah. Or the
Yeah.
future
So
moment
that
of now. Right.
that's right. So you can conceptualize moving in a linear form through this kind of dance along this path, but you are always in the moment. So there can't be a plan because there's only the moment. And that's
Brilliant.
what's so distracting about this flow state is it is moment by moment. Like you can't if you tap out and start thinking and get lost in your head and you're going to miss the next set of instructions. And it's only when you get back into the flow that the instruction stream will start coming in again.
Right. And the
And so it's a
instruction
very,
and the instructions, they're really clear moment by moment. You
very
feel
clear.
like you feel like you know exactly, okay, it's time to do this, okay, it's time to do that. And
Mm.
I would say that some people might say, well, who's bossing you around and who's ordering you around, right? Like, but it is
Yeah.
yourself. It is your it's like that's what I'm saying when we get this flow state of well, and I flow state is a little bit different than what I feel like is coming in is a barrage of information on data. It's like data
Yep.
on an
But you won't
energetic
access it.
level. Right. It's not
Yeah.
yeah,
You can't access it unless you're in the flow state. That's the
right.
setting you need to be in, which is all the mindfulness stuff, all those people who talk about mindfulness. And that's what they're trying to get at. Like whether they're hijacked, whether they're working for someone else, whether they're trying to get you to listen to the CIA operator sitting out in Arizona somewhere doing the satellite balloon, voice to skull,
Right.
all the stuff, right? Let's bring it all in, bring the whole package in.
Right.
Like no matter what's going on, it's like this is where we're at. This whole it's got to be you've got to be in the moment to get that info, and you can get all that other info not in the flow, not in the moment.
Mhm.
People get told to get the gun and go and shoot them all up, or go and do the strange thing, or they should leave their husband, or they'd be better off throwing themselves off the roof, or
You can
people
get
get
those
all that. You
right.
get that, but you're not in the flow state when you get that. That just comes in like no, with no welcome mat or you didn't invite it in, it just comes.
Right.
But when you hit that flow state, the volume on all that shit just gets turned right down.
Right. Oh
And
yeah.
this data stream comes in and it's not words and it's not colors and it's not thoughts. It's just
It's a
it.
freedom. And I want to say this is it's like if you're not yet experiencing this, don't worry about it. Don't it's not
Oh
like
no.
yeah, I believe that what I am interested in is if you're watching this video and you're in the flow state or you're not in the flow state and you want to jot it down below in the comments or, talk about where you're at. We could have varying different degrees of relating to the information that's coming through us right now. Everybody is at different spaces and everybody does have different missions, and there's no missions that are more important than other missions. It's the timing of the missions. And my friend Lisa, I love her so much. She talks about everybody can't show up at the bus station at the same time. You got to kind of come into the parking lot and everyone gets on the bus at different times, or else you'd have everyone trying to get on the bus at the exact same time. And that's not what this is about. This is about a process of awakening. And I know that, you know, the people that watch mine and Hamish's videos, you're in that space. If you're watching this video, you're probably in the space to where you're very close, if not already experiencing what we're talking about. Now, you might be going through, I want to say, the healing of the deep wound before you get to that space. I do think that, and I also know that we're not always going to stay in that flow space. And I'll give you an example. Today, I walked away. I was kind of frustrated at something, and out of my mouth came the words, "Stay in the flow state." Like it was an order. I was like, where'd that come from? But it was my inner being telling me, stay in the flow state. Don't leave the flow state. And I went, yes, ma'am. You know, I mean, I felt like I'd been given a direct order, but it was so weird to hear it coming out of my mouth. And what I realized is sometimes this is what we train for. This is discipline. This is, oh my God, I'm going to go, ah. And it's like, no, you're not. Stay in the flow state. And then when I went back to do what I was going to do, I was like, oh, I wanted to go into old thinking. I wanted to go into old patterns. And so it's something that you practice. And I'm sure I'm going to come out of the flow state. You know, this isn't one of those things, but it is a trend that I think it indicates where we're at in the process. I think it really indicates. Go ahead, Hamish.
I was going to say it's the flow state is a little bit like, it's a bit like bliss or capital L love, or like these really expansive roomy like words. Roomy, yeah, that's a good joke.
Roomy.
But not that roomy. Roomy with an I.
Roomy. Both of them. Okay.
Both of them, right? They're really expansive. They're quite, but it's like, what does that mean? What are you even talking about? Like, how do you? And I find when I work with people, they would say things like, I haven't ever experienced that. I don't know what that is. And it's not that they haven't experienced it, it's they were expecting it to be a different way than how it showed up for them. And so they'd actually experienced that quite a few times, like, let's say, bliss, but they didn't realize that that's what it was. They were expecting something else. Because they were expecting, and my metaphor was because they were expecting a grand piano to be delivered to their front door. When 5 red roses were delivered to their front door, they didn't, they just went, oh, that's nice, and put them in a vase and went about their day.
Right.
Like, the bliss came in, but it wasn't in the way that they expected, so they didn't experience it. It was just kind of written off as another thing. So if you were watching this and going, Debbie and Hamish are banging on about the flow state and it sounds lovely and it's on mission and there's all this great stuff, but I'm not experiencing that, and so this video has nothing for me, you might actually be experiencing that. You just might not realize that that's where you are because of your expectations of what your, you know, ascension looks like spaceships coming down from the sky. No, it doesn't. Ascensions looks like Dr. Strange portals opening up and we're going to walk through them on a rainbow bridge. No, it's not. Ascension is a simulation. It's a weird AI trap, and we actually need to do this other thing instead, and you shouldn't use those words. And everyone's got this cosmology, and we spoke about this through the week. Someone left a comment in one of my videos about this person used to have good information, but their cosmology's all wrong because they believe in blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And so you just can't listen to anything they say because either they're willfully misguiding people or they've been misguided themselves and they're leading you down the wrong path.
Right.
Now, I would very politely say I do not give a rat's behind about your cosmology.
Right.
I just don't care. I meet so many different people with different cosmologies, and if I was to write off every person that didn't have my personal cosmological
We'd be
belief,
alone. You and I'd be
we'd
hanging
be
out in a
alone.
room.
Yeah, and what I mean by cosmology is I believe the Earth is a level plane. No, well, I believe the Earth is a sphere. I believe the Earth is a whatever shape I believe, but space is fake. No, I believe space is real and the planets are solid rocks that you can land on and do things, and there are bases all out there and galaxies and no, it's not that. It's all underwater and it actually goes down a lot further than you think, and there are portals everywhere. And like, do you know?
Like, and
Do you
you,
actually
yes,
know?
right.
And if you don't actually know, then you have a personal belief system and you have a lived experience that you have absorbed through your sensory system. But hot news flash, we live in an illusion. Like it's literally a light trick, this thing that we're in. So you don't know a damn thing. You don't know if you're right or not about your cosmology. So the idea that you're going to write off someone's information because they don't believe in exactly what you believe in and they believe in the evil CIA counter op, it's like, what? it it just, you're just putting yourself in a box. All I can say is I do not know what shape this world is, if it even has a shape, and I'm really happy with that.
Right.
I'm just going to go with that.
That's interesting that you should say that, because there's two things I was going to talk about that kind of go right along with that. And I'll just say that, well, first of all, one of the decisions that I've sort of made lately in absorbing myself in the data field and the streaming information that's coming to me and the stuff I'm being drawn to, and then having conversations with other people that have very strong cosmologies, like you said, who have had personal firsthand experiences in a certain way, I've been able to say,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, and it's okay. Those two things, I don't
Yeah.
know, and it's okay, because I'm prepared. And I think that that's where we're headed to, and what all this flow state is about, and all of this final deep healing of the wounds is about, is this letting go of what we think is going to happen, and to not be attached to any one way for it, but to be prepared, I think, is the most important thing, because we've got all kinds of potentials. And there have been people that have been sort of, oh God, what if this happens? And it's kind of like part of what I'm coming to know is my strength, and knowing who I am, and knowing that I can handle whatever comes along. And
Yeah.
that, for whatever reason, things have been this particular way with me. And I know that, I keep making a joke, and that is that Ascended Master Katumi, who I've had some firsthand experience with, I'm just gonna say that, he's a friend of mine, and my cosmology doesn't attribute anything to the archangels and all that. I'm just gonna say that. But I have firsthand experience with him as my brother, as someone who came in and taught me a lot of stuff that was very empowering to me. And so I know that one of these days he's going to walk through the wall and he's going to just be standing there. And that's
Yeah.
the preparation of, we are going to start experiencing certain things that we have to be prepared for anything, and to cross any, look under rocks and find out where we're afraid and where we're fearful of different things, because that's the only thing we have to be afraid of, is whatever we're afraid of. You know what I'm saying? It's
Yeah.
like getting in the power, and realizing who you are, and realizing that no matter how this plays out, your inner being's walking with you. Your inner being's got your back. He or she knows exactly what you're supposed to be doing. So as long as you're kind of like hanging out with yourself, and you
Yeah.
try to stay in that flow state as much as possible, you're going to be like, turn left, turn right, like in those movies.
Yeah. And like you say, whether Katumi walks through your wall, or Satan,
Or
or
Satan.
Lucifer,
Yeah, there you
or
go. We were talking
Jesus,
about that. Yep.
or like any of these beings come through your wall and go to have a chat with you, are you going to fall down on your knees and worship them? Are
Or
you
you're
going to
going to go,
freak out
ah, I'm scared,
and run?
Right?
Are you going to draw the circle around yourself and start trying to banish them? Like,
Yeah.
what are you going to do here?
Yeah.
Because this is kind of where we're at, and it's interesting that we're getting to that point
Yeah.
where some of that's going to start happening interpersonally for people, because unless you haven't been noticing, all of the timelines that have been like seeded out into the consciousness over the last however long, including all the biblical ones and the ones from the Jewish books and the the
God.
prophets,
Hmm.
who were either, maybe they were prophesizing the future, maybe they were looking into the future and they saw it was going to happen, or maybe they were writing a script because they felt the energies and they went, well, we can tweak those energies and massage them to make ourselves come out on top because we saw them coming first. Like, whatever's going on there, all of these scriptures, all these scripts are playing out. Like, who's got the batteries and the 3 months of water and the canned food and the matches and the lighters under their house, prepping, waiting for the 10 days of darkness and the craziness, right?
Right.
Do you live in Gaza? No, you missed the boat. It's
Right.
already playing out.
Right.
The famine timeline, the running out of water timeline, your place is being invaded by a foreign enemy timeline is playing out in Palestine and has been for weeks and
Right.
weeks and weeks and weeks to
Right.
devastating effect. So when all the people who saw that coming, all the channelers, all the remote viewers, the people with their tarot cards, they weren't wrong,
Right.
but it's not happening anywhere else. It's only there.
Their snow
Like,
globe.
and if you look out, it's like this is happening a lot, actually. A lot of these end of the world, rapture, internet outage, think about all the things that we've seen in the last 15 years of conspiracy theories, right?
Right.
So many of them have played out in the last 2 years or are playing out now just in pockets. And every time it starts, everyone says, oh, look, there's the beginning, and then they're going to roll it out everywhere, except it doesn't.
Right.
And then it collapses and another one starts somewhere else.
Pops
And
up.
yeah, and is it like these scripts, these scriptures, they have to play out somewhere. The energy has to be dispersed, and so it's like little spot fires popping up and then disappearing again all around the place. And so, be ready for anything,
Right.
but also World War III might not going to be about to spark off in your backyard either.
Right.
It's just,
Things can pop up and seem like they're going to take hold, and they seem to go right back down. And this pops up over here, and it seems like it's going to go down, and it goes right back down.
Yep.
That might be, well, I had written down two things, and one is the potentials. I mean, we are changing the world every day by being here.
Oh, moment by moment, these potentials are getting, and that was the Monday morning, Tuesday morning when we woke up and things felt funny, and like there was a real sense that a whole stack of potentials had been collapsed, and
Thank
potentials
you.
that would have been very beneficial for us. Like, no one was going to benefit from these potentials except the parasites that like to come along and feed on the carrion afterwards. Like, and it just felt like a whole lot of that shit just got wiped off the table. Just
That
gone.
is a great way to describe it. And I don't really know, like, at some soul level, I'm sure we do know what kind of took place. If we were tuned into that, or we tried to reach into it. But it's like, I just thought that was so fascinating that you got that at the same time I got that. And then you were having people report it on your side, and I had at least two people that were reporting it on my side. We're on the opposite sides of the world, guys, if you didn't know that. And yeah, it seems like a lot of these potentials are kind of crumbling. And then some other things that are more beneficial seem to be popping up. And, I had several things, I won't get into the details of, that I was like, oh, wow, that's a potential. And it's for abundance. It's like when you get into the flow state and what's yours by right just starts flowing towards you all of a sudden, and you're like, I guess it's kind of like, I'll just come out and say it. We had our best sales day the other day in a year, and it was like, it was so easy. I didn't really even have to do anything for it. It was just, everything was lined up to be delivered, and it was like, and
Yeah.
I started feeling that hopeful feeling like, oh my gosh, there's plenty of abundance to get us through to wherever we're going. It's
Yeah.
starting to flow. It's starting to be part of our reality. So some really good stuff there.
But all
Go
the
ahead.
economic stuff would tell you that you should be experiencing the worst sales days ever.
I know. Isn't that funny?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it just
Doesn't
doesn't
add
really
up.
matter. No, and it doesn't need to. You just have to, I was going to say turn your back on that. I mean, just do whatever resonates with
Right.
you, but don't pay attention to all the road signs and all the soothsayers and the doom talkers and the black pillars because what they're and I had this conversation with someone today who'll probably be watching this,
Mm-hmm.
where we were talking about these potentials collapsing, like these potential timelines is not quite the word I want to use, but potentialities that are like echoes into the future that are out there that could be followed. And we were discussing the idea that a lot of these people who give energy reports online, because that's the world that we're in at the moment, is
Right.
looking at this stuff and have been for 5 years or more, 10 years. There are a lot of people who are putting out energy reports still, but they're not reporting on anything. They don't really have any new data. They don't
Right.
really have anything that seems to resonate, and it's almost like they're not making it up, but there's something not there. And we were speculating that, well, perhaps the contact out that would to us linearly seem like it's in the future, but the contact that was feeding them data and information wasn't actually on the path. It was on one of these alternate paths,
Right. And
and
that
that's
collapsed.
been shut down. And so if
Wow.
all you were doing was getting data from and tuned into an alternate slightly to the right in like because we were talking, this was our conversation of like the path, like the way to
Right.
go.
Right.
And then right hand path, it's mirrored for YouTube, but so right hand path is joy and happiness and love and light and beautiful stuff. And left hand path is pain and suffering and doom, and both of these paths have a lot of people trying to get to enlightenment, trying to get to flow state, trying to get to God, trying to get to supreme whatever that
Right.
is.
Creator. Yeah.
They're trying to use those things to get there. And so if your data was coming through a joyful love and light, everything's going to be beautiful in New Earth stream, or World War III is going to happen, but as long as you're in the correct place, you won't suffer too. It's going to be terrible.
Right.
And both those potentialities got shut out. You've got no
And
data coming.
right. And you're not picking it up to say it.
And the middle path is still there. The center path is still there, but you're not tuned into that. So you're not hearing it. Whereas you and
We talked
we're
about
just going to
this.
say at this moment, you and I are reasonably well tuned into somewhere in that center path. We're not really imagining we're off in the prickles at the moment. And so as the noise of all these potential paths fall away, this one's getting really loud and
Right.
we can hear it. We
Right.
don't have to meditate for it. We don't
Oh
have to go
no.
looking for it. It's just like, boom, it's coming in.
And this is the point of the middle path. And I think that's what really lit me up of what you were talking about, is that the middle path is really what's going to happen. And
Yeah,
no one knows what's going to happen. And if you start
that's
going
it.
off one way of flowery and light and airy, and the other side is dark, and we're going to have all this horrible stuff happen, the truth is probably right somewhere in the middle and in between. And as long as you're not chasing shiny objects in either
Yeah.
direction, and you kind
Yeah.
of just say, I'm just going to, I don't want to say keep my head down, because I want to keep my head up and I want to be very aware and see what's happening and look around and see who's just slightly off to the left and who's slightly off to the right, and just kind of, hey, come on over here. This is safe over here. Or hey, you
Mm.
need a hand or whatever.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. But
but be prepared. Be
yeah,
prepared for whatever is going to
you're prepared
come.
for anything. Yeah. And what I would say is, in my experience, it's not people that will pull you off the path.
Right.
It is ideas and it is events that will pull you off the path. So you'd say, I followed this guru and he dragged me off, or she dragged me off one way or the other off the path. It's like, no, the person didn't drag you off. The idea that they sold you dragged you off. And the way I would put this is, so the middle path, this is just for an example. On the middle path, the fiat currencies of the world, in particular the US dollar, end up collapsing, okay? Now, someone's going to sell you an idea that when the US currency totally collapses, this whole other chain of events will happen.
Right.
That's potentially going to pull you off, but they're going to sell it to you with an event that they know is going to happen. And then they're going to try and sell you into their reality. Or another one would be cryptos are going to boom, and they're doing it just at the moment, like they always do, up, down, like they do. But it's very visible because of the moves, right? On the middle path, the Bitcoin does go through the roof again. But then when Bitcoin goes through the roof, that means this for the real estate market, this for the financial market. No one actually knows that.
Right.
But you buy into those ideas, and then off you go into a pocket realm again.
Into the pocket realm.
Off you go, and these scriptures, these prophets. This is what this is. Like the prophet who wrote the story that ended up in the Bible or the Torah or the Quran or whatever is no different to listening to Cliff High or me or any other person give some sort of future forecast. The idea that they're selling you based on an event that they can see that's going to happen is bullshit. Do not follow it. The event they can see, the first event, is probably going to happen. Like the Zionist thing, right? The Israeli world will fight the Arabic world and they will collapse. And then Christianity will collapse as well, and then a new thing will come in.
So
that's probably an energy.
Right.
Yeah, well, I got to say, that's probably an energy that, we have the first thing happening right now, and it has been happening for a while,
but it
right?
doesn't mean the rest of it follows.
It doesn't mean the rest of it.
Right.
Absolutely. And so when you read the prophecy, you're like, this happens.
And then I expect.
Read Revelation.
Yeah.
Nonsense. Like the
Yep.
first thing's going to happen, and then stop and look
and
just
there.
check it out.
Exactly.
See what's there.
Yeah.
And see what's going on, because just because one thing happens doesn't mean, and the reason that the prophecy made it into a book and made it down through however many years it came, whether it's Edgar Cayce or Muhammad or someone else all the way back through, some Egyptian thing that's meant to be from 10,000 years ago.
Right.
They're selling you a story to try and get you to go into their pocket realm with your energy where they benefit, not you.
Well, yes, but I also want to say that there are a lot of people that are doing that innocently. I mean, hey, I brought forth information. I was going to say I brought forth information about portals opening up and that being a possibility. It's a potential. And I guess the thing is that even the innocent people who really believe something, it's as soon as you really believe something, you're gonna at least share it with people to say, does that resonate with you too? Does that resonate with you too? So I wanted to put that caveat in there. It's not always about deception. It's not always about trying to lead someone down the wrong path.
No, it's a very good way of putting it. It's the event that they're probably not deliberately doing it at all. That's the future that they have been shown.
Right.
But the interesting thing is, have you or I, and I can speak for me, not for you, have we ever actually seen the future? I've seen events in the future, like a event. But I haven't seen
what the future looks like. Oh, no. I get senses of the qualities of what existence
Yep.
feels like. But the
Yep.
future itself, no, I can't say, because I was on with my friend Vic today, and we were talking about that. We were talking about that very thing. It's like,
Yeah.
he's shown pictures of what he sees the new Earth looking like, and I'm like, where does all this stuff come from? And what we really ended up realizing is he goes, this is a life that I've lived before. So, and I'm like, okay, so it's a past life. So
Yeah.
is it
Not a
in the
future life.
future? But will we have potentials to create whatever we want when we get out of here? Will we take some of the stuff we've done and learn and go and create
Definitely.
with the toys that we picked up here, the creations here? Sure. But the truth is, no one really, really knows what this looks like.
No. No. And in the flow state, you're not working with a plan,
Right.
and you're not working with a future projection or a forecast. You're just dealing with the moment, and the moment is presenting you with that energy that you can see that's not quite over the horizon. Like the dust storm, the dust billows over the horizon, and you're in the moment and you say, there's a dust storm coming, and you deal with that.
And I
When a
want
dust
to.
storm
Oh,
comes,
go ahead.
oh yeah, you go.
Oh, I was just going to say, I wanted to add a word in here that I got from George Kavasilis. This is
Yep.
so good. Actuality.
Yeah.
Not truth,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Not
actuality.
reality.
Right. It's
Actuality.
actuality. What is the actual, and we're dealing when we stay in that flow state, and he didn't say that. I did not hear him say that, but I know a word that he uses a lot of times is actuality, and I'll talk about him in a bit. But that's what I guess I'm getting from you is if you stay here in this step by step by step, what you're dealing with is what's actually happening. Not what you
Yep.
think's gonna
Yep.
happen, not what might happen 2 weeks down the road. What's actually
Exactly.
happening. And
You're not
responding here.
projecting. Yeah, because your
Yeah.
reality is what you believe it's going to be, whereas actuality is what's actually going on,
Yeah.
not what you see as real. Because you might see someone walking through the wall as very unreal, but
Right.
it actually just happened
There
for
you
you.
go.
What are you going to do then?
Yeah.
So, like, if I saw a dust storm coming over the horizon, there's a part of my brain that would say, at this time of year, when a dust storm comes over the horizon at this time of day, that means there's a massive thunderstorm behind it. So don't worry about the dust. Prepare for it to get turned into mud really quickly, and we're going to get wet and maybe even flash flooded.
Right.
I have no idea that that's what's coming. It could be 3 days worth of dust and not a drop of rain.
Right.
Like what you just deal with what's on the way, and don't get diverted into these storylines.
Yeah.
Because we're telling ourselves a story about something that hasn't happened yet.
Well,
So
and I find myself having done that. I mean, I'm going to say guilty as charged, and yet not that you're charging me,
me
but I'm
too.
saying, I get an idea of what's coming, and I think, all right, this is the other thing that I wanted to add that seemed to come in with this freedom piece, and that is clarity.
Yeah.
I can't help but see stuff. It's like things are so clear to me. It's not
Yep.
judgment, it's observation. And it's very
Yeah.
clear observation. Something is black or it's white. I mean, it's not gray or I'm just as an example.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like
Totally.
it used to be like, is that white? It looks kind of gray. No, this is white. It doesn't look gray
Yeah.
at all. It's everything is crystal clear. And so you start seeing
I
things. Go ahead.
I start seeing the energies versus the story. And I'm like, that's the energy. Like you could read a thing and say, yeah, there's the energetic event that's going to happen. And that's the story of a potential future that someone has extrapolated on top of that energy. And it is a high potential that that'll happen, but that's not a given.
Right.
That's just a potential storyline. And we don't really want to be dealing with that at this point. We want to be dealing with the actual energies in the moment, those hits. Like when those remote viewers see the thing coming and they tell you about the thing for 2 minutes, but then they spend another 20 minutes telling you about what it means and what's coming behind it. It's like
That's
energy
where they'll take
versus
you
story.
from. That's where they take you from what they've seen to what they think it means. And
Yeah,
I
but that
think,
means they're taking you into their world. And it's like, no, you're in your world. Like, that's not
and
work with the energy. Don't worry about the story.
and that's why I have a hard time watching stuff because everyone has such a large volume of information on what's coming and remote viewers and all of this. Now, on the same note, I do want to bring in George Kavasilis. And I wanted to talk about this because part of what's been coming in for me is, we talked about mission and, oh, you're not good at any job, or whatever. And it's like, and what I'm starting to realize is that he is kind of, I want to say he is, what's the word for it? Cemented in my knowing by bringing up the stuff we're talking about from a completely different source and standpoint. And so the one information that I have been kind of diving into is a lot of his more recent stuff. Now, recently in my groups, Lisa Harrison's groups, a couple people brought in 2 of his videos from 8 years ago, which are totally different flavor from where he is right now. But a lot of, and all I'm going to say about this is if you have been listening to Athena's work and if you ascribe to creator beings and that we are creator beings, and that's my number, we're creator beings and we're on an empowerment journey. Basically, this entire place is a false matrix. This is I'm giving you my ideology or my cosmology. But if you ascribe to the fact that we've been in this place, I don't care if you call it a prison, I don't care if you call it a dome, I don't care if you call it flat earth or round earth or whatever, that we've been in a space where we have been definitely imposed upon by an outside energy, or it could be us in other bodies. I'm not going to take, I'll take responsibility, but in any respect where we have been disempowered, we are living in a disempowered space, creative space, arena, I don't care what you want to call it, and that we are on a path to become empowered, and we become empowered through awakening to who we are and realizing that there is no other outside of us. That's not like we're the end all be all and that we're the only one. There's all of us. But so there's some of my ideology, my cosmology, as you would say it. If that is something that you ascribe to, and a lot of people that follow our stuff or, hang out with us in different groups and stuff, that's kind of the basis of it. If you have that, you might want to take a look at George Kavasilis' work. He just put out something. I joined his community this month, and I was on his first call with a friend of mine, Maria, who I've met through our little groups here. And she and I both, oh my gosh, yes, this information it was cementing everything that we knew inside of ourselves. So it's just confirmation of what we've known. It's a confirmation of all the stuff that we've talked about, Hamish. And Hamish and I have been having these conversations since July of last year, haven't we? Just this constant, I want to say the top level view of, okay, what would you do? Okay, how would you change this? It's like almost like if we were executive managers of the corporation, we're looking at the strategies and stuff. Like we're somebody, right? It's just kind of fun. But anyways, so I was on this call that he had just a couple days ago. Maria was on there too, and she actually spoke up. It's beautiful. She's just such a beautiful person. But anyways, it just so happens that George had been working on something called his 3 levels of imposition. And it's like his grand piece of work. And he has been working on it since 2011, and he just presented it this week on this call. There were about 125 people on there. And I just wanted to tell you guys that this was so powerful. The stuff that he had crystallized, it was almost like putting down this. It's almost like a proclamation, a declaration of not independence, but it's stating the facts of where we've been, what we've been doing, where we've been, imposed upon at different levels. And I'm going to end up doing a video on that. I still have to take a little bit of a portal in to some of those. He said each one of those little phrases in this whole thing, it's a very, very intense, like full page, 1 page condensed, almost like a slide. But each one of it is a little portal that will literally take you into the spaces in the time-space continuum to where this stuff has taken place for you personally. I mean, like if we can ride that and we surf it in and we can get a much better view. And this is what Athena was talking about when she was going into her own, what do I need to know, me personally, what do I need to know about this reality? Who am I? Where am I from? What does all of this mean to me? What jobs do I have here? Whatever. This
Mm.
document was so, so powerful. So I wanted to talk about that because, um, in a way, I feel like it aligns so much with the mission that's coming to me now, which is we've got these potentials coming in. And he does go into some ideas that really, I want to say, upend the New Age community. There's a lot of concepts, you know, and it's all giving our power away. Everywhere in the New Age community where we've given our power away, whether that's to a guru or whether that's to, like you said, following someone else's cosmology or rejecting
Mm.
someone else's cosmology and letting it affect our
Yep.
path, whatever it is. Um, this is a little bit more about um, finding it inside of ourselves. And part of this mission that I'm finding is that I do believe that he's part of. I think all of us, that anyone especially that's watching this video, you're all part of a team. We're all here together. We're all here to walk this path and deal with what comes. We're here to
Yeah.
actually deal with the actualization. I love this word actual.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I wanted to bring that up because, you know, I think one of the things that I've probably learned over the last 6 months, and this is me, you know me, I just say it like it is that I realized that sometimes I like to share where I get my perspectives from, because number one, I don't want to usurp that as that's my own perspective that I got myself. It's from my experience, because that would not be true. So I like
Mm.
to give credit where credit is due. But I think I also tend to hype get overexcited and over, so I tend to jump on people's cosmology, which is what, you know, you were just talking about, or I go, no, you know, I tend to be a little bit more like that. But what has happened to me recently, and I bring this up with the case with George, what I'd like to say is George is just, he's one of us, but he's been on the galactic. He's been on that galactic ride. He's gone on the
Oh yeah.
spaceships. He's
Oh yeah.
participated in teaching these teachings and is quite, sometimes quite, you know, like not apologetic, but he's made his peace with that, and he's had to apologize, and he's had to, because he was kind of brought into that new age galactic society, and he has some
Mhm.
very firsthand experience with what all that means. And there's a potential that there's the, you know, what are the storylines that we've been hearing about, what's coming next? Disclosure,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
what does disclosure
Exactly.
look like, and what does it mean? So he's a really good person to kind of, I would say, try it out, listen to some of his newer stuff, maybe join his community for a week or two and look at a few of his things and see if that's part of your team. Because I really think right now, and this is my main point, I think right now this whole thing about the forerunners sort of pulling their energies back, and I mean into themselves, to find their own truth. I think that what's happening is we're also igniting our teams. We're finding our teams.
Yeah.
And our teams are going to be very important. They're
Yeah.
our support system. They're the people that, you know, have your back when you're like in the weeds and you're, oh wow, I'm dealing with this actuality. What do you think I should do with this? I know you're on the other side of the planet, Hamish, but I know you probably have some words of wisdom when Lucifer shows up on my doorstep, right? I mean, just whatever could happen. I mean, Hamish, what
Yeah.
do I do? Our teams are very supportive, um, and just knowing that you're not alone going through this. None of us are alone. We have a team here. We have a team of humans here, and I'm sure we have a team of unseens. You know,
Mm.
I believe that, and you really have helped a lot of people start to be able to discern, like, who is this being that is helping you, and are they empowering you or not? And I think that part of this whole thing, and I'm just saying, I think George is part of my team, and I would say I'm part of his team. I mean, it's like it's feeling like no, I'm saying I'm not putting him on a pedestal, and I'm not saying, oh, he's got all the answers. I don't think that. But I do think that he has some incredible experiences that really opened my eyes and made me go, oh, wow, well, that's a potential I hadn't thought of. And
Yeah.
there are several of those people around that are getting it. We're all kind of very aligned with what we're talking about because we do believe the realm is closing out. We do believe there's some kind of closure happening very soon. There's got to be a playing out of the script. And we're here
Yeah.
for a reason. Any of you that are watching this, you're here for a reason. Even if it's just to bring your light and to hold that light. It changes everything all the time. What do you think
Yep.
about that? I've been talking
Yep.
a while.
No. No, I really like that actually, because the team member thing is going to be supremely important, and this is where the discernment bit comes in, which is why I haven't been talking publicly, like, because I do things in sessions and I do things with people one on one, but like if I'm talking on a call or I'm talking on YouTube to the camera for a bit or whatever, like I haven't been talking about teams, I haven't been talking about mission, and I haven't been talking about energies and timelines and what to do with it and potentialities. And what I'm mostly bang on about is discernment.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have the discernment, you're going to struggle with knowing, is that person an actual team member or are they trying to sink the ship?
Yeah.
And it
That's a good
can
point.
get really, because, you know, I have dealt with a few people who have gone really deep into certain situations that really resonated with them. Like you were saying, you were on a call with someone and he was looking at New Earth, and then it turned out that was his old Earth. That was something he'd already done. Doesn't mean that's not where he's going, because
Right.
that might be his ideal spot.
Right.
But it's like something in him, in his being, something unfinished perhaps, something a bit wounded, or something that just really loves that, is trying to recreate that again. This is the Hyperborean thing. There's a whole big group movement of Hyperborea is our future and that's what we should be going towards. And it's like, well, maybe, but maybe that was our past, and why would you want to recreate that again?
When you've already
Maybe because
experienced it.
you've already, maybe you thought that was the best expression of humanity. Maybe it turned out that you were one of the families energetically that was at the top of the tree when that would, like, you know, here's me always thinking the sneaky
No,
angle and thinking
that's,
worth.
yeah. Well, he was
But
saying,
you know,
yeah, go ahead.
like, it's just say, what are the reasons? Like they're not always going to be sneaky and nefarious, but just interrogate them and look. And it's about discernment.
Yeah.
And so once you trust yourself enough to trust that you can actually make a mistake, like even if you do entrust something to a person and it turns out, they weren't the team member you thought they were, this is this flow state moment of you trust yourself enough to go, well, there's an opportunity. I can deal with that.
Right.
Looks like I trusted the wrong person. Pull the energy back,
Right.
cut those cords off, lean into something else. Like it's not the end of the world.
Right.
Or look at me, I made a terrible choice. It's like, no, look at you. You saw the choice that you made was a mistake and you pulled yourself back from it.
When you're having an opportunity to practice your discernment. And I think that we learn, I mean, let's face it, we've just been kind of going blind. I mean, running blind, I should say, in younger years, I would say, is, you know, I just trusted everyone. And there are a lot of people like me. Oh, yeah, I trust you until you give me a reason not to trust you. I mean, that's humans. I know you're not like that. I kind of gathered that because we run opposites. But I'm serious. I mean, that's how I was. It took me a long time to wake up to really what discernment is and all of that. But I do feel like that's what we're training for right now. We're training to go in here and find out what's really resonating and to discern based on, is this an empowering position or is this a disempowering position? You know, our team members, genuine, authentic, organic, human creator beings are going to, unless they're unless they've got a lot of wounding, right? Wounds can
Yeah.
make people not be this way, but if someone's to the space where they need to be, and you are too, you're gonna feel that heart. The heart's gonna speak. Your inner being is gonna speak. And
Yep.
that's why it's so important to not get distracted, like to go off the path onto the into the
With the
wild pricker bushes.
with the shiny things, like
Yeah.
someone comes at you with the Mary Magdalene storyline, someone comes at you with a Yeshua storyline or a Messiah
Or an
storyline or a
archangel.
Joan of Arc.
Yeah.
Yeah, an archangel, whether it's a being or a human or someone comes at you with one of these storylines and you're like, yeah, yeah, that's bright and shiny. That's interesting. We already did that, didn't we? I don't recall that it turned out very well for Joan of Arc last time. So are you making me a martyr for something? Like saying that I'm going to be the new Joan of Arc? Like, just check this stuff out and go, what is someone trying to give you a bill of goods here? Is someone trying to sell you something that you don't really want to buy? And just feel into it, because yeah, the teams are very important. And when you can allow yourself to get quiet enough, and that's kind of a bit of what's going on here, like we were saying, the potentialities are bottlenecking
Pulling
or they're
back.
collapsing,
Hmm.
and that middle path is getting louder. But what's also getting louder is the discombobulation and the distortions inside us are also getting quite loud, because they've got no avenues out now. They've got no potentialities to throw themselves down these future
Yeah.
echoes. So the wounds are getting really loud, and
To be dealt
do
with.
your effing work is getting really loud. And
Hmm.
so we just need to start getting quiet enough that we can hear that and deal with it. And we don't need to worry about getting dragged off the path, because it's not even an issue. It's not going
Well,
to happen. Someone will come in and they'll try and tell you they're a brother from a past
and
experience
you're
and a
gonna
team
know.
member. You're just going to be like, that's wonderful. I'm glad you feel that way. I'm just going to be over here doing this now. And
Right.
you're just not going to dive into it, because it won't match. There's no resonance there, and there'll be no, oh, I wonder, maybe I should ask that other person. I'll call Hamish and find out what he thinks about the situation. That's all going to be gone, because you won't need it.
You won't.
You'll be so quiet and so in here that you just go, no, that doesn't smell right. I'm not going with that.
There was something that in a video that I had just listened to with George where he talked about when you meet people that you don't need to be introduced. You know each
No,
other. You might be
you
like,
know,
hey, I haven't seen you in a really long time. And that's how I felt like about Maria. I mean, I look at her picture, I'm like, I know you. I recognize you. I know you, and I know you. That is not something that can be, I mean, I'm not going to say that someone couldn't come to you etherically and say that they're someone
mm,
that has passed away, but you know the person. So you know
yeah,
their energy. It's not just what someone looks like, it's their energy. It's it's their personality. It's
the actuality
the
of what's going on.
actuality. Yeah. And if you stay in that connection with your
Mm,
inner being and really just stay with and do what you're told, I hate to say it that way, but really listen,
yeah.
you're going to stay
Yep.
out of trouble.
And you
And
can't fake that. Like you can, you can hedge your bets and create a story in your head and go, oh, but this person or this scenario, or maybe it should, or it's doing something for the white hats. It should work out really well. Or that's my galactic family that talked to me when I was 7 years old. I had all those such good experiences with them. Or they're the archangels or the spirits that I always dealt with when I was going through a really tough period. So it should. And it's like you can tell yourself all of these stories, but if other people's stories are bullshit, yours probably are as well. So just drop the stories and look at the energy. What is the energy actually saying to you? And if it's no good, it'll say to you, turn around and walk in the other direction. And you should listen to that.
right. And that is, if it's, I would say, if it's disempowering, I want to throw something in here. One of my friends who and you've done some work with, she's been really struggling with a particular experience that she had with Mother Mary.
Mm.
And as we started to talk about it, the more we talked about it, the more I realized, and the more she realized, that the experience that she had, whoever came to her to teach her something was not disempowering her. So we looked at it. We looked at it together under the microscope, and we were looking for where's the disempowerment in this particular thing that's been very helpful to you. And there was
Yeah.
none. And so there's also the possibilities here that, we've had helpers along the way, and
Yeah.
it's just whether or not they've been empowering. It's funny. One of the things that George is still asking someone to come up with in all of these channels, has any of these people that are channeling through archangels, ascended masters, the galactics, the Federation, Galactic Federation of Light, have any of them told you who you are? Have they told you
No.
why we're here? And have they told
No.
you where you belong, where you're going, where you're heading?
And do you know why they haven't? They haven't because they all exist on these potentialities. They don't exist on the path because the ones that exist on the path are busy in the moment doing what they're doing.
Right. Well, and there's another possibility here is that we've got a natural evolution happening here with organic human, with the creator beings that are organic human, and it cannot be stopped. And it's not comfortable because they don't, like you said, they don't know where they belong in all of that. They don't know what happens to them when this happens. And so they're afraid, and they don't want the game to end because they're afraid that they're non-player characters. And when the game goes off, poof, they're gone forever. And I'd like to say that what that said to me, and I'm going to say this is how we got on that whole conversation about if Lucifer shows up in my living room or whatever. Compassion. Just the compassion for these. I don't care how horrible any of these beings have gone down a road to become. But the compassion that, how would you feel if you didn't know if you were going to be here?
Yeah, but you knew that if you pulled something off in a wonky position and subverted some things and corrupted some things, then you'd know what was going to happen and you'd be in control. It'd be bad,
right,
or it'd be good, like white hats, black hats, right? Jesus, Lucifer. Either way,
it's still pulling.
You're in
it's
control.
Still pulling. Yeah,
it's still pulling. You're still pulling off.
Right.
So
right.
And what you just said, I hear that daily from energies and entities in sessions. We get to the end game of one of these particular entities or energies in a person, and what it comes down to is they're scared. They don't want to leave the body of the person because they don't know what's going to happen.
That happened
They're
to me.
freaked out.
Yeah, we cleared something like that, and we still had to send her goodbye. Got to go.
Yeah.
And,
you have to go, and they're holding on like this. They're like, but I don't know what's going to happen. And well,
you're about to find out.
Yeah, you can't stay here.
Because guess what? Because guess what? We don't know what's going to happen either. I mean, let's just face it. We know, but we don't know. We don't know exactly. We've got the veil over us, so in a sense, we're all playing the same game, and So I don't know exactly where we were going with that one. Except that I mean I really wanted to make sure that people understand that you aren't here alone. There are team members. Be looking for who resonates with your, I don't know if you want to say storyline, because we talked about
energy.
Okay,
I'm going to say
energy.
I'm going to say who resonates with your energy in the moment, because things are going to resonate with your storyline.
Okay.
And that's not good.
Right.
Potentially that's not good. Oh no, I know exactly what you meant though, but it's like there's a nuance there of, for me, I'd be saying the easiest way to trick someone would be to learn their backstory and then come in and as a brand new person with all this stuff that matches their story. Oh my God, you're like my twin. Your story and my story match. You're like the energy's a bit funky, but the story matches.
Right.
It's like no, throw the story out the window. How does their energy feel? If there's any doubt there or any question, interrogate that. Find out what's going on.
Right.
Work it out. Yeah. Don't fall for the past life. Don't fall for the pretty picture and the fairy tale. It's nice. It's lovely. Read a fantasy book if you want, or There's nothing wrong with that. I do that all the time. That's fine. But don't navigate by it.
Right.
Navigate by the actual energy in front of you
Right.
only.
Right. Sorry about that. I was thinking about that. Of course, you don't want to match up stories, but there is something to people that you've known before, and I guess that's maybe where I was
Yeah.
going with. That's what I meant to say.
Yeah.
It's really late here. I mean, it's 1:30 in the morning here, people. So, yeah, I do
Yeah.
this late
Oh,
thing, and
enjoy
he
it.
does this. That's typically. And I've been to the gym and had a full day, but really, that's what I really meant to say is that there are people that are here that, as you meet them, you just know that you're meant to be doing mission with them, or there's a certain level of trust, like they're from back home and you feel it. And when you are not chasing the story, and when you are not chasing the shiny objects, and you are trying to
Yeah.
really stay in the flow and know that, stay in the actual reality,
Yeah.
actually be present, deal with what's actually happening.
Yeah.
When you stay in that space, listen to your heart and to who you know, because I feel that the teams are coming online, and that was my point. My point is,
Yeah.
I feel teams are coming online. Teams are finding each other right now. And you're right, there's going to be some subversion, but
Mm.
I'm kind of saying that when you have that, you've got some other people who go, oh yeah, no, oh no, that person's infiltrating because I can see them. You know what I mean? In other words, you're there together.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah. And like, don't see it as an imposition.
yeah,
See it as an opportunity to
yeah,
test yourself out.
right,
Oh, someone really wants to get close to me. Someone really wants to. So how do I feel about that?
right,
I'm not feeling that good about that. How am I going to deal with that? Like
right.
it's just a leveling up.
I think the last thing that I wanted to bring up is this deep sense of integrity that
Mm.
has been, I want to say, strengthening in me. I mean, I think we all grew up with different integrity models based on what was allowed and what wasn't allowed but um, I think this whole thing about being really true to ourselves has probably never been more important than it is right now.
Mm.
To be truthful in all of the stuff that we're doing. Truthful, I don't even know if it's so much about speaking truth and all of that, but to conduct yourself with as high integrity as possible and try to, I don't know, show up as authentic as you can right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nobody,
Which is doing what you say, saying what you're going to do, and not holding other people to a standard that you're not going to adhere to yourself.
right,
Not blaming other people for behavior that you're actually doing on the daily. Like,
right,
that's not integrity. That's something else. So
right,
hold yourself to a higher standard than you hold anyone else to. And if there's behavior in other people that's really grinding you out, check yourself, because you might be doing it in other ways as well, and just really get that stuff balanced up, because the faster we go, the more, like, if the wheel, the wheel balance on a car or a motorbike, like if the wheel is slightly out of balance at a slow speed, it's not an issue. But you hit 120 miles an hour, that wheel's going to rip clean off the car and fly off. And we're going to
well, and
see
I
a bit of
think
that.
there's another aspect of that though, and that is be yourself. And what I mean by
Yeah,
integrity, I mean like check yourself and make sure that you're showing up in your honest integrity. Don't try to be something that you're
absolutely.
not right now. I think that
Yeah,
there's a lot of people that feel a lot of pressure to be something that they're not. I really do. Especially a
yep.
lot of the way showers, a lot of the people that are, that people look up to.
Mm.
They feel the pressure of that, and all right, here's a perfect example. You might have someone who's been hooked into a stream of that information of the timelines that have been collapsing, and that person's feeling like, oh God, I got to create content. I'm talking about, anybody you see, card
Yeah.
readers, I don't care who you're talking about. And they might
Yeah.
start feeling that pressure like, oh my, I don't have, then be quiet. You don't have to show up in that place. I mean, I think so many people have been driven to, especially in the new age community, to perform, to make their social media posts and to make sure that everybody keeps, I got to keep in front of my customers. I got to keep in front of my,
Because I'm helping them. I'm
because,
helping
well,
all
I'm
these
helping
people. What are
them.
they going to do
But I've
without
heard,
me?
but I've heard people say, well, if I don't stay in front of them, they're not going to remember me and they're not going to book a session with me. I've heard people say that. And it's like,
Yeah.
we're past it. We're past that. We're
Yeah.
past
Yeah,
that.
we are.
We don't need to be staying in front of people for that reason. We have to trust that if that person needs you, they're gonna find you.
They're going to turn up.
It's
Yeah.
be who you genuinely really want to be, and that's what I was trying to bring up with integrity. Be
Yeah.
where you're at. Don't present yourself in one way and then turn around and do something different. And
Because
it's. Go ahead.
I could look back in my life and
Oh, me
see
too.
areas where I was out of integrity, and what was keeping me out of integrity was I was trying to show up as someone else
Yeah.
who I thought everyone needed me to be, who I thought everyone wanted me to be, who I thought if I was that person, I would be more popular, be more like whatever.
Yeah.
But when I wasn't showing up as me, I wasn't in integrity, and it would go sideways
Yeah.
eventually.
Yeah.
Always, because it's out of alignment,
Yeah.
and it's just not gonna flow.
Well, and I guess the reason why I wanted to bring that up is I wanted to give everyone, it's that permission slip that you really don't need for me. I mean, I'm just giving it to you. You take it, you don't take it. I'm just saying I gave myself that permission slip, and I'd like to just sort of bring that up for everyone, that I would offer you the permission slip I gave myself, which is show up honestly, show up
Yeah.
raw, show up in your actual self. And sometimes that's not going to be super comfortable. Sometimes
Most
you
times.
throw yourself under the
Most
bus.
times.
Like, yeah, but the thing is it's so much more fun that way.
It is a lot more fun, and it's just authentic, and you get to the point where you just haven't got any time for anything that's not authentic.
Yeah.
You just can't.
That's what
You
we
know.
were talking about too, is it's really hard to have time. I mean, all of us are going to start being more and more absorbed with our actuality. So whether you want to call it an illusion, you want to call it reality, it's actuality if you're experiencing it. And we're going to have more and more of our own actuality, and we've got to be actually ourselves.
Yeah.
How do you like that?
Yeah, we do. We do.
Oh my gosh.
do.
Well, we've been talking for an hour and a half. Is there anything that you wanted to say before we sign off?
Yeah, when you're being authentically yourself and you're dealing with what's actually in front of you in your actuality, remember to be in the moment and like a child with that energy. Don't come at that energy with a preconceived idea, because that will put you in a box, that will limit your actions, that will limit the actions of the energy that's coming at you, probably not in a very beneficial way. And that's the illusion. That's how the illusion works, is on preconceived notions. So if you can just deal with it raw and authentic in the moment as it is, not really knowing what it is and being happy to admit that you don't know, but you're just going to roll with it, then it could turn into anything. And that's much more expansive.
It's magic.
That's real magic.
Right. And that's where I feel like we're headed. We're headed towards magic. We're headed towards wherever we're heading, our actuality is going to end up magic. And I think you really said something important there when you were saying, don't decide what it is, because you might not, it shows up in front of you, but don't put any ideas on what it means. Like, no, this is pending because of that. This happened, so this is pending. Just let it be in the moment of now. Let it actualize for you. I'll show you what
that's
it's
flow
going to
state.
teach you.
That's real flow state.
Yeah. So I guess we can leave it there. Hamish's information is going to be below, as well as mine, in case you do want to book a session. If you like this video, it really helps us if you give it the thumbs up, share it with a friend. And if you have not subscribed, please subscribe if you'd like to see more content like this. And I guess until next time, I guess we'll say goodbye.
Yeah.
All right, take
See you.
care, everybody.
Bye
Bye.
bye.